Hi, everybody. My name is Chuck Spong. I have the privilege of leading Love Out Loud. But Love Out Loud, as many of you are aware, started way back with Christmas for the City in 2008. So right here in the middle of July, if you can believe it, we're already thinking about Christmas and specifically Christmas for the City. In fact, for a few weeks now, we have been beginning to wrap our minds around how that's going to look vastly different, much like all of us are adapting to this current season of COVID-19 and all the important issues we're addressing as a community. We have concurrently been thinking about what might happen this December. And in fact, feeling pretty strongly that now more than ever, we're gonna need a moment like his Christmas for the City has afforded us each year where we come together. Of course, as I mentioned, that coming together is gonna look differently, but that doesn't mean that we might be able to come up with some new approaches that allow us to do just that. Well, I'm actually sitting here in the back of the Millennium Center where it all began. In fact, it literally began right in this room, back over my shoulder. There was about probably 15 of us in this very room with a flip chart, and we just began to think about kind of post-production years in terms of big productions at churches. What might it look like for us to celebrate Christmas in a different way? And so I was able to dig up. We actually saved a picture of this very first flip chart that began to guide our efforts. Like literally the first two things we wrote are the two things you see at the top there, that we would be the presence of Christ, and real specifically, we would be the hands and feet of Jesus in some very practical and highly relational ways, and that we would always look for the activity of God in everything that we're doing. And so for a good 6 weeks there in 2008, we just began to really push into how that might look a lot different. And you can see down there at the bottom of this particular flip chart, eventually the idea of Christmas for the City really begins to come into view. I was also able to dig up another picture that was of our time here at the Millennium Center. And we used to, Christmas for the City would be December 1 through December 23. And then we would, on the 24th of December at 6 p.m., we'd have a vigil right out on the steps. And you see folks gathered there. This was actually the second year, 2009, where the theme of Christmas for the City was called Love Out Loud. You see those big banners hanging from the Millennium Center. And then Liz is going to tell us, one of the other people on the call is going to tell us about the third year, 2010, where we did 30 days of serving called Love Out Loud. But before we get going with that, I just wanted to remind us of some of the values that have guided us over the years that continue to ground our efforts. And we're not going to read through this. You can find this on the Christmas for the City website. I believe on the About page, there's a link that talks about vision, values, and outcomes. But from the very beginning, this phrase right here in the middle of the page, creating a meaningful Christmas experience for the whole community, has just been what has been the central mission. That experience can look vastly different each year, and so that's why we feel like it stands the test of time. Values that were literally written on that flip chart here back in the day. You see on the artistic side that it would be simple, unextravagant, very grassroots in nature. That have a lot of arts. That we'd have tons of different kinds of artists. There'd be a high degree of excellence, and that all truth is God's truth. It didn't necessarily have to be what we might call sacred. It could be things that just talked about humanity and about how we all are shared people that walk this planet made in the image of God. And then you see on the left there, spiritually, we just boiled it down to two basic things. How do we love God and love people? And some of those other things tell us how we work that out. Up on the top right there, the big three is also kind of just helped us wrap our mind around how do we do just that, love God, love people, keep looking for where God's at work, and then take the bigness of our community, of a large-scale experience, and make it feel small and intimate. So those things still guide us to this day. So, over the years, we've had all kinds of different things that have been a part of the experience. But this year, we knew that it was a year to just retool the whole experience. In fact, part of the reason why I wanted to shoot my part of this video in this space is it feels a lot like 2008, where we said it's all on the table. We are open-handedly entertaining every possibility and praying for God to guide us in that effort. In fact, what we've said quite often, and Jonathan here in a minute will talk about it, but we're holding it all very open-handedly, very loosely. Even if we were to come up with some idea we thought was right, none of us know what December holds. And so as a result of that, we're just exploring some different options. And so I want to bring to the screen Jonathan Allen, who produced last year's Christmas for the City, been a part of many Christmases for the city, and has a passion for what we're doing. And he's agreed to ride point on particularly some of the R&D, the research and development we're doing right now about the possibilities and how we might continue to vet that out and invite you to join that effort. So Jonathan, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you, Chuck. So this is year 13 for Christmas for the City, and year 13 is going to look completely different than the first 12 years. I don't think there's any question about that. Our city, our state, our country, our world has changed forever. And so we are in brand new territory this year, but it does not mean that we cannot still fulfill the vision of creating a meaningful Christmas experience for the whole community. And so that's what we're seeking to do this year, just in different ways. So what we are looking to do right now is develop several courses of action that could potentially play out over the course of the next 4 or 5 months. I know one of the topics of discussion right now is education, especially over the past few days, is what are schools going to look like? How often will students be able to go to school? Will students even be able to go to school? So if education and the school year is still very much in limbo, and that's only weeks away, definitely what's months away is also very much in limbo. So at this point, there's no bad ideas. There's nothing that we're not exploring. Everything's on the table. But as I said, there's 5 specific courses of action that we want to pursue, and each one of them we want to be very flexible, and we want to be able to pivot at a moment's notice. Something changes in the environment, new regulations are placed on the city, just whatever may come up, we want to be able to pivot any one of these ideas, but we will pursue all 5 of these ideas as if they're going to happen. So let me share those 5 with you. So the first one is a completely virtual experience. So nothing in person, everything is virtual and done online, pre-recorded. Some of it may even be live, but none of it will be in person. So very, very simple to understand, especially in the space that we've been in for these past 4 months. Everybody understands virtual. We're probably all zoomed out at this point, but that's our way of life right now. So first course of action is virtual. Second is if we were to do a drive-in. So that would basically be some type of gathering, but obviously a huge space, but it would be something where you could drive in, drive through, and just not have to worry about getting out of your car. Again, whatever we do in any of these courses of action, our main objective is to keep people safe, and it is to make sure that everyone can enjoy this season without serious concerns about their health. So that's the second option, is a drive-through / drive-in. The third is to do a centralized experience where it's outside and it's not drive-in, but it's in person, but it's outside, spaced out, very, very socially distanced, and in one location, very similar to what we've done at the Benton Convention Center, where you know that this is the one place where Christmas for the City is going to take place. So again, we have no idea where that location would be, where that centralized location would be, but that would be one of the courses of action would be to do centralized in one location, completely socially distanced and outside. And then the fourth would be decentralized. So that would be, again, outside. And I know that's tricky with it being December, and in addition to everything else, we'd have to contend with the weather. But again, we want to keep people safe, and at least with the knowledge that we have now, we know that outside venues, outside experiences are much more safe than those inside. So, but the decentralized option would be multi-site. So there may be something in one location on the west side of town. And then there's another location on the east side of town. And then there's something that's taking place downtown. And then we're making sure that we're offering the experience to multiple locations and multiple communities within our city. So the decentralized option also is on the table. And then the fifth option is to do multiple days. So essentially what that would be is it's not just one day of Christmas for the city as we have been doing in the past few years. It essentially would be a Christmas for the city season. It could be a week, it could be 2 weeks. We could take the entire month of December and say that this is Christmas for the city season. As soon as we get past Thanksgiving, it's Christmas for the city season. Again, everything's on the table at this point. So those are our five courses of action. We are looking to pursue all five of these, like I said. And the great thing about them is not only will be able to pivot, but several of these might overlap. There's nothing to say that we couldn't do decentralized and multi-day and multiple days. There's nothing to say that we can't do virtual and centralized outside. So we do multiple options. And again, some of these courses of action could overlap. So it's an exciting time. It's very hard to put it into a box. We're going to have to really think outside of every box we've ever thought in as we've been planning Christmas for the city for the past few years. So again, exciting times, and we know that God is going to show up. We put him at the forefront. We ask him to go before us. We ask him to go behind us. We ask him to be all around us and be all within us. So we just thank God in advance for what he's going to do. And as he will move and save and just deliver and inspire in ways that we couldn't even imagine when we first started this brainstorming within the last few weeks. So we stand back and we watch him move, and we're looking forward to anything that you would like to do to be involved in the brainstorming and the planning. You can join in any of the courses of action teams that we're developing, and just feel free to reach out to us. We'll be sharing some information with you shortly about how you can get involved. And as I said, all ideas are on the table and all are welcome. So thank you all, and God bless you.
Excellent, Jonathan. And yeah, there's Jonathan does a great overview, and there's some of those things have been fleshed out as here Jonathan referred to. Maybe you could talk for a quick minute. There were a couple things that we talked about. No matter what it looks like, we got to make sure we consider these things. I'll just read them. I'm just looking at the notes right now, and I'd love for you to talk just for briefly about. We talked about health conditions, we talked about transportation, and we talked about diversity. So maybe you can just talk a little bit more about those three things and how they thread through whatever model we do.
Yeah, absolutely. And I might need you to read those off for me again, but I'll start with health conditions. So again, our primary objective, in addition to fulfilling our vision of creating a meaningful Christmas experience for the whole community, is to keep everybody safe. That is such a challenge these days, as you can hear if you just listen to any of the dialogue that's taking place nationally and internationally. Is there's always conversations about what is the best way to keep people safe. Do you wear a mask? Do you not wear a mask? Do you mandate that hand sanitizer is used? Do you mandate 6 feet apart, 3 feet apart? Whatever the case may be. So we are aware that those who have underlying health conditions are at greater risk. And so we want to make sure that we take that into consideration, in addition to just making sure that that we're just keeping everybody healthy, period, whether you have a pre-existing condition or not. So we are
talking about what about essential workers or those facing hardships and making sure they're included.
Yeah, absolutely. We want to make sure that everybody's included and everybody's able to partake, regardless of your state, regardless of your occupation, or whether, again, whatever your health situation may be. So yeah, definitely want to be all inclusive as much as possible.
Yeah, and then you talked about making sure, so even some of these decentralized options, there's transportation implications for people.
Right.
And so, what you're thinking on that, or just don't forget.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, that's a tough one because, the great thing about having the Benton Convention Center is it's one location. You can get dropped off there. You can catch a bus there. You can walk there, and transportation is not as big of an issue. But if we did, like, for example, if we did centralize but in a different location, then the question is, well, can everybody in the community get reliable transportation to that new location, whether it's on the east side of town, the west side of town, wherever. So that's part of it, and then the other part of it is just making sure that if we do the decentralized, that we place these locations where those who might have transportation issues can easily access. So there's challenges with transportation and in any one of these areas that we look at. So yeah, definitely taking that into consideration.
Yeah, and on the original values page, I didn't read it when we had it up on the screen, but our original target that stands true today is all people everywhere. If you've ever done event management or whatever, you're supposed to be a lot more focused. It's young families, it's across generations, but literally we said everybody. And so we'll continue to have that lens of how do we create something that, in the words of a recent foundation report, that helps people to mix it up across racial, socioeconomic, generational, and geographic lines. And so we got a lot to figure out, but we're excited about the possibility. And it's moments like these where innovation can really happen in some profound ways.
Absolutely.
All right, thanks, Jonathan. Let's shift over. We'll come back to Jonathan here in a second before we close, but we wanted to also tell you about something we were planning pre-COVID, and that's the fact that you heard me reference at the front that the third year, 2010, was where we did 30 days of serving that was called Love Out Loud, and literally when it begins to open up from just a Christmas experience to this year-round collaborative effort that we now find ourselves, really leaning into quite a bit. So Liz has been thinking about that. Liz is our partnership director and is very connected to the nonprofits. And of course, we're all involved in how you engage volunteers. So Liz, give us just a quick overview of what we're thinking with regard to 30 days of Love Out Loud at the 10-year mark.
Yeah, we're really excited to celebrate this year, definitely in new ways, but still celebrate with the community together. And one thing that was really foundational in the third year of Christmas for the City was spending the 30 days leading up to Christmas for the City between Thanksgiving and December 21st, and spending them serving the community together. So we connected with a bunch of different nonprofits. We separated them into categories. So like you may see behind me, there's all different ways and causes you can serve in our community. And we're looking forward to connecting again with nonprofits and giving you more opportunities to engage in this community that you live in together in smaller groups, whether it's with veterans homelessness and with animals, with trafficking, with education, whatever you're passionate about, to give you more pathways and more avenues to be involved in those areas. So if you run a nonprofit or a program or part of a church doing community engagement right now and you want to be involved, you want to get options for volunteers to participate with you in December, we look forward to talking to you about that. And if you want to be involved in serving, if you want to be involved in any of these teams that Jonathan talked about, we're going to have linked 5 different links for you, whether you want to participate with the digital experience, the in-person experience, with the nonprofits, whatever you want to be engaged in, so you can stay in communication with us over the next few months as we figure this out together.
Perfect. So we got a lot to do. One of the things it's been a value of ours from the very beginning is that all of our planning exists around an open table. And that's a big part of what this conversation is about today. One, is to give you an update on some of the thinking, but two, it's an invitation to you, and depending on how you're wired, some people are wired for behind the scenes, others are wired for like in the moment. Those of you particularly that are wired towards kind of development and strategic thinking, and brainstorming, like I love nothing more than to be in like the realm of possibilities in blue sky territory. You saw Jonathan's blue sky behind him, like the possibilities being infinite. So others, that can be a little unnerving, but we're going to sit here for, I'm sure, a good probably 2 to 3 months. I mean, it could even be deep into the fall before we have confidence, but that also opens up all kinds of possibilities for innovation. So as a part of that approach, it's never been a closed group of people that you can't get in if you don't know somebody. No, instead, we're going to tee this up in ways that if you're gifted and you're wired in a way that you want to be a part of the planning, we absolutely invite your participation in that. And so as Liz said, you'll have opportunities on base where all of our volunteer opportunities happen. In fact, the 30 days of serving in December, all that'll be housed on this particular website. That first year in 2010, we did have a website where you could get to some of that, but it was largely print-based. There's this notebook that happened. And we may do a print piece, but for the most part, the digital realm and the ability to just keep people updated and to be very flexible is very helpful to us. So I guess first thing is get on base, and if you're not already, and then if you are, go to the Christmas for the City agency. So you click on agency and then you search for Christmas and it'll show up there. In our newsletters and things like that, we'll send you links too. But we're going to invite your participation. So right before we go here, Jonathan, any closing thoughts from you?
In parting, I would just say that, again, this is an exciting time, and the great thing about Christmas for the City in the past that will continue is that we do it together. There is no one person, there's no one organization. We have thousands of volunteers. I think last year was over 70 churches involved. And so that part is not going to change. What will change is just how we go about it, but we will do it together. So we need everybody. We need your thoughts, we need your prayers, and then of course we're going to need your action and your assistance. So we look forward to it. We're here, and we look forward to working with you, and we look forward to when we get around to January of next year, looking back and just seeing how amazing it was, and how God just blew our mind with how he brought it all together. So again, thank you in advance, and look forward to working with you all.
Yeah, that's so true that it takes all of us. I mean, a couple of metrics that are just standard for us. There's typically a small core team that has run over the years anywhere from 8 to about 20 people. But then there's the other teams around the children's area and the dining and the guest experience. And literally every time I sit down and try and figure out now who are the leaders involved, it is always in the,
Right.
as a baseline, it's 120 people or more that handle all the desserts and coffee and so on and so forth. So there's room for you, and there's a place for you that matches your gifts, skills, and even season of life. So Liz, you want to offer anything before we sign off here?
Nope, we're just very excited to continue engaging with you in this season of planning and preparation and serving together, and excited to see what God does for all of us and what we can do as a community together to celebrate this season and just to be in community in a new way.
Love it. Yeah. So we're producing an event, but there's something that happens along the way, the relational equity and the community among us, that's every bit as important as whatever happens, whenever it happens, and wherever it happens. So if you're feeling any kind of nudge, kind of by all means, reach out to us, and we'd love to partner with you. All right. Thanks, everybody. And we'll bring you another update probably in a little while as things begin to get clearer, but jump on base and be a part. Let's see if we can all wave together. All right. Bye. All right. My favorite thing to do. You guys have a great day.